All right, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You guys rock. Let me kill this video real quick. And we are here tonight with My Awakening, episode 80. Zetetic Warrior. It's been a great first hour, and now we're just getting into one of his most passionate topics, Flat Earth. Before we pick up, let me just tell everybody again the plan. We are multi-streaming on YouTube on the Brian Staveley 3 channel. We're also on Rockfin, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, and maybe even Telegram. But we are going all in on a lot of stuff tonight, including COVID, 9/11, all sorts of shit. So we're definitely going to delete this off YouTube later. So if you get here late and it disappears before you finish, you just got to bounce over to one of the other platforms, okay? The links are below the video. Grab the link to your favorite other platform right now. So, Zetetic Warrior, Z, before the break, we were just getting... You know what's interesting, too? We were just getting into Flat Earth, and you talk about how it makes you like a whole new person and all this. And it's funny, when I hear you talk, dude, it surprised me that you just said you came in at, like, 2017. Like, you sound like a 2015 guy. Like, you're very, you seem very well-versed and very thorough. So I think you really were really deep into everything for several years since you woke up to it, I'd like to say, huh?
Yeah, dude. I made up for lost time, man. I really did. When I decided, put it this way, man, when I hit that point where I had that realization, that was it for me. Then I went all in, and I went so before I came out, talked or said it to anybody, I had to really know. Now it just seems so absurd to me, the whole presentation,
Yeah.
It's just completely absurd, dude. But yeah. So it's like, I almost was like, I got to catch up to these people, man. When I say, I went through every one of David Weiss's videos, man, going back to his old podcast. I would go in, I would just find somebody's channel who I liked and just watch every video of theirs, dude.
Yeah.
I would just go back and watch for years and just watch their shit, dude. And I was just like sucking it all in. And I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff, So once it started to click, then and the more I got into it, the more I realized, oh shit, this is real, this is real. Because I know, in these you always ask people like, what's your top flat Earth proof? Or
Yeah, well,
like
give me a few. Give me a few of them while we're here, because now we're gonna.
All right, so. To borrow a phrase from David Weiss, my top flat Earth proof is, if we lived in their model, we'd all be dead because it's impossible. But number one proof is there's no proof of the globe, plain and simple. And that's where I am with these people. Like you said, that stream we were on the other night, Brian, that we're on, where I came in with, I jumped in on you. I love engaging in those type of dialogues with people because it really hones your skills and you learn how to talk to people and how to have this conversation with them. And it doesn't have to go any further than there's no proof of the globe, right? They try to take us into all kinds of goofy stuff. They'll start talking about, the Southern Cross and the North Star and seasons, and they're going to want to go all over this place. And then you're in a crazy place with these people. So I just stick to the basics. There's no proof of your globe. There's no proof that the Earth shows convexity. And that's the biggest thing. There's no convexity now.
It's so ridiculous because it would be everywhere, and they can't show any example of it yet claim it exists. It's unbelievable.
Well, exactly. That's the thing.
It's unbelievable.
There's no convexity. And here's the way I look at it. So underneath the topic of there's no convexity, you can go a lot of ways. Obviously, all the quote-unquote black swan type of experiments, right? Mm-hmm. You can look over water and you see things that you shouldn't be able to see, whether it's over Lake Michigan from 50 miles or seeing the Statue of Liberty from 50, 60 miles out, or
those mountains in France from 273 miles in France, those mountains.
Mount Canigou. Yeah, that's Mount Canigou. Exactly, dude. It's funny you bring that up because more and more I've been thinking about this, Brian. It's the long range visualization that is the nail in the coffin.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like because the further out you can see, even if you have to go real high to see it. For instance, Brian, there's stories of, people in high altitude planes, whether they're up 50,000 feet, 60,000 feet, or 70,000 feet with some of these planes. The Concorde used to be up at like 55,000 feet, dude. Well, anyway, these pilots would tell stories where, say they're like flying, dude, they're like in, I don't know, like New Mexico, and they could see the Pacific Ocean clear as day, dude. Or you're somewhere in, I don't know, in middle America and you can see the Rockies. And they describe their stories of seeing things 500, 800
Mhm.
miles away, right? Now people say, well, they're so high. They're so high. Well, it doesn't work like that. Because as we know, as you go out in distance, when you use the supposed Earth curvature calculation, it's 8 inches per mile square.
Yeah.
So it grows exponentially. So the curve is a non-linear growth. It's exponential. But when you're going high in elevation, as you're going up, that's linear growth. So yeah, if I got to go up 50,000 feet to see something 800 miles away, if I have to go up 50,000 feet to 60,000 feet to see something 800 miles away, like the fucking Rockies, and I can see it, it blows it out of the water because now you're talking about
The horizon should
thousands.
drop like crazy when you go up like that. The horizon should drop
Exactly, dude.
off the fucking
It's
map, dude.
bingo. And that's why, Brian, I realize now, like Jay Tolan and his infrared,
Infrared,
he
yeah.
uses infrared camera. That's it. It's over. It's over from there. And I can go into more stuff about, the fucking Nile, the Nile River. The Nile River, think about it, man. It's a 4,000-mile river. The Nile River runs basically from south to north for the most part. It has just a little twist, but it mostly runs straight. The Nile River, over a 4,000-mile length, only descends 1 mile
Yeah.
the whole way. So from where it starts to where it ends, that's only a mile of of descent. So the whole river drops a mile. How is that possible? That's it's impossible on a globe. How could a river flow uphill? People say
How
they
would
think
this
gravity.
simple things, dude, like simple things like a periscope or a lighthouse, they'd be almost irrelevant.
Exactly, dude. I mean, that's the absurdity. I'll put it like this, Brian. Electromagnetic propagation, when you look at things like radar, okay? When you look at things like sonar, when you look at things like line of sight, if you look at the railgun, the U.S. military has a munition called a railgun.
Yeah.
It hits line of sight like 100
Miles.
miles away, dude.
Miles and miles, dude. Straight across the top of the
Okay?
ocean. Just like with airplanes too, submarine captains, if they weren't adjusting for the alleged curve, the way the Earth would move at the bottom, they would end up surfacing, just like.
Just like the planes would end up in space.
Yeah.
So we can go on, man. The sonar wouldn't work in the
Well, dude,
submarine.
the,
The
the
periscope,
airplanes,
once it pierces
airplanes
the
is
water.
fucking airplanes. Everything about airplanes is my favorite. Like, I mean, and that gets more into not just the flat Earth, but the stationary Earth. The idea that airplanes are flying and
Yeah,
landing on north-south runways when the fucking thing's spinning at them sideways, west to east. It's like such a ludicrous story. And then
exactly,
on
dude.
top of it all, it's not even said that they're doing anything to adjust for said stunt, right? It just works. Everything just works as if the Earth is flat and stationary. And we know that people are trained to fly as if the Earth is flat and stationary. Well, you could take out the as if because it is flat and stationary.
Exactly. All the large scale engineering projects, canals, impossible on globe Earth. The bridges that they make, these long bridges and tunnels. Um, and the pilots, like we were just talking about planes, the smart ones know.
Oh yeah.
The smart ones know. The smart pilots know. Most of them are just idiots, dude. But they're just like regular people. I don't want to call them idiots, but they're indoctrinated. They're mind controlled. But the smart ones know, especially the ones in quote unquote southern hemisphere. Um, what I realize now, Brian, and where I've been focusing with these people is I always say this, dude. It's not about the information because what we just laid out here is indisputable. Everybody wants to debate. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, said, "Well, how come there's no debates between flat earthers and globe scientists?" Well, I said, first of all, why isn't there? That begs the question
Yeah.
because there's a lot of flat earthers. Where's the debates? But the
All,
second
all,
thing
all
is,
they'll do is
you
use
don't need a
media.
debate.
All they'll use is use their power of the media to mock us. Then they won't entertain any real
Of
debate.
course.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, why does there need to be a debate? Is science debated? We're talking about science here, man. Scientific method, okay? It's an empirical method of discovery, all right? It's not that you don't debate that. You do the experiments, you present your findings. Other people review those findings. Can they repeat the experiment? Is it observable? Is it measurable? And is it repeatable? You have to have those three factors for science. That's all you need. You don't need a degree. You don't need to know anything. Science is a method. It's not an institution. It's all. They've captured what our concept of science and presented it to us as a system construct.
Yeah.
So where's the debate? There's no fucking debate needed. But what I wanted to say, Brian, is we present these things and it's obvious to us because it's obvious once you put the heliocentric globe Earth model under the slightest degree of scrutiny using logic and reasoning, it falls apart in 2 seconds. It doesn't even get off the ground. It's like I was saying to that guy the other night, Brian, on that podcast. There's bending and warping of space-time is absurd. How do you bend and warp a concept? It's fucking lunacy. And these guys, like on that podcast, they'll go and they'll talk about quantum physics and quantum entanglement.
Oh, dude,
And
I just want to
talking
throw up,
about it
dude.
as
Every
if it's,
time I hear quantum, I just want to throw up right there. I'm ready to puke.
exactly. It's such a clown show and so clear to us. But here's my point, Brian. It's not about the information. It's about the indoctrination and the emotional underpinnings of the indoctrination. Because these people aren't thinking logically, they're reacting emotionally.
Yep.
And the reason they react emotionally is because they're programmed from their emotions,
Yeah.
right? So what do, Brian? They gave us Star Wars. You're like me, dude. I loved Star Wars.
Best
I
movie
watched
ever.
Empire Strikes Back
Best movie
like a
ever.
million times.
Yeah.
Dude, Empire Strikes Back to me may be the best movie ever made, dude. You don't even have to like sci-fi. Empire Strikes Back, in and of itself as a movie, is epic. I watched that movie, I can't even tell you how many times, dude, in the 80s. Um, you know, all the stuff presented they presented their um, they presented their propaganda in a way to influence our emotions. You know, you get tied into it. So when these people react, they're reacting emotionally. And when you're reacting emotionally, you're not thinking, right? And that's why we see these aggressive responses from these people when we try to talk to them. So they'll behave with tremendous aggression, and next thing you know, you're in a conflict with these people because they're reacting emotionally because you're tapping into something that's
Well,
basically their identity.
there is, a lot of times, dude, it's not even about if you're talking to them about flat Earth or COVID or whatever it is. It's just the idea of all of these things, of questioning their reality to a level where, you know, accepting that they've been lied to on a massive scale. It's really wild too, because if you ask most people, right, you know this, if you would ask people, hey, do you think the media's ever lied, right? Oh yeah. Do you think the government's ever lied? Oh yeah. But then they can't think that they're ever being lied to currently. It's fucking mind-boggling. So, they lied about this in the 60s, and they lied about that in the 70s, and they lied about this in the 80s and the 90s, and they lied about fucking weapons of mass destruction, right? There's a big one, right? That everybody, whether that story is whatever, but everybody knows that they lied about that, right? And there were no weapons of mass destruction, they admitted after, right? But they did all of this fucking killing and shit in the name of it, right? Allegedly. And people are just, they lied about all that, but they're not lying now. They wouldn't be lying about COVID. I mean, it's crazy,
Yep.
dude. And again, if you can't understand that was fucking nonsense when there's not an ambulance siren for a fucking good year and a half. You got something delusional in your head. But like you said, they're completely fucking programmed. And when you said that they're programmed to react in certain ways, they're literally programmed so deep that I truly believe that a lot of these trigger words are big time spells. We know some of the words, and they literally hear some of these words and they get activated. Like a word like flat earth would be near the top of the list of one of those trigger words, dude. Where there's something deep buried within them. And we know, like, we've been told it was stupid since we were little and all that, and it seems so absurd, right? So there's all that built up. But what if there's something else, too, that goes along with these trigger words that we
There
haven't picked
seems
up
to be
on?
more.
Yeah, there's more to it. There's another
There,
underlying frequency that goes along with them.
there seems to be. You know, Brian, it's what it is. It's a psychological defense mechanism that they're employing unconsciously, right? Because what they're really protecting is their identity, because the system trains you to identify yourself and to self-identify through the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you challenge the system, you're actually challenging their identity
Yeah.
and their concept of themselves. And that's why it hits them so deep, because you're basically shattering their very psychological foundation.
Yeah,
And their
dude.
concept of who they are.
It's like we talked about on the show the other night. I don't know if it was with you or with other people, but I remember the conversation. And it's like people just they identify with things like what their profession is. For instance, who are you? Oh, I'm a doctor. Okay, so now you're telling this doctor that COVID's fake. Boom, you just shattered his whole life, dude. All his money that he spent on school, everything, right? Boom.
Well, Brian, that's the story of my life, dude. You know, that happened to me, man. That's my story, dude. I was working in a hospital during COVID, you know. It sucks. I don't want to leave the flat earth topic. I love it so much, but
so we can circle back. We can whatever you want to do. You want to put the COVID thing? We'll get to there, or do you want to get to it now and come back to flat Earth? What do you want to do?
yeah, let's just keep going. Let's go where we're going. Let's go with the COVID thing,
Cool.
dude. Fuck it. Let's do
All
it,
right, cool.
man.
And we'll come back to
So,
flat Earth because there's a lot to go there. Like when you first told people, when you first came out, we'll touch on all that. But so let's go to COVID. You
yeah.
give people a little bit on your background. You say you're working in a hospital. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm non-practicing, so I left healthcare, but I was a healthcare professional. So if anybody knows what an audiologist is, so I'm a doctor of audiology. All right. So what that means is I'm not a medical doctor. All right, but I have a doctorate in the field of audiology. All right, it's called an AUD. So I went through all the classical medical training.
You're definitely qualified enough though to go on TV and tell people you're a doctor.
Well, I mean, I was a doctor. I mean, at the hospital, I was Dr. Mazio. It's just I'm not a medical doctor, right? I always tell people if somebody faints, still call an ambulance, right?
Yeah.
But, just think of things like PhDs and professional doctorates and stuff. There's all kinds of doctors, but so I'm a doctor of audiology. So it means I have the highest training in that particular field. So I went through all the training, 8 years of everything, and anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, genetics. We can go down the whole thing. Everything. So I was indoctrinated in their medical model. I went through the whole thing, and like you said, I was invested in it, dude. You go to school for that long. After I graduated, I opened up my own private practice, and after 4 years, it was getting a little boring for me, so I sold it. And then I got hired at a pediatric hospital in a major city near me in Delaware. I don't want to give too much up, but fuck it. People want to look, they can. Anyway, so not only was I a practitioner and a provider, but I was the supervisor of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I had both duties. I was in management, so I was managing about 12 to 14, depending on the time, other audiologists in this pediatric hospital. Plus, I was a clinician practicing. So I got to see the full breadth and scope of the medical system. I was in it, Brian. I was in it. was an amazing
So
experience.
did
It
you
almost killed me.
did you and we're going to get to COVID, of course, but did you question any of it before COVID, or you bought all in all the way
So
up till that?
no, that's the thing, bro. It's like I was saying before. Like it got to a point where I'm existing in that world, but yet I'm going through all these awakenings, right? And a weird thing happens, and I sympathize with people because it was me, where this world has a funny way of getting you to psychically separate yourself. And I think it's a mass sort of mind control, trauma based, you know what I mean? Like MK Ultra trauma based with all the fear and the propaganda and the programming, right? I think it gets us to um, psychically and spiritually really separate ourselves to a sickness where we have our real self, right? But
Hmm.
then we have the persona, your persona, whether it's your job or however you identify, right? So you separate yourself and then you're existing in the world as this persona or like a mask, right? Now, a mask is useful. We can put on different masks. We could wear different masks for different purposes, right? But when you embody the mask, when you embody the persona, is the problem. And I think that's what happens. So these people almost get multiple personalities. And so I was existing in a state where I realized all the lies. Now all of a sudden I realized that they lied to me about where I live.
Yep.
Evolution's complete bullshit. I realized, okay, that means evolution's
And
nothing. And you start to question
you
everything.
had to certainly be realizing that well, they're pushing prescriptions rather than nutrition on people, and vaccines are bad, right?
Dude,
At
it
this point.
was,
I mean, and then you
yeah,
work
man.
because if you woke up
It's
in the
ne
earlier years and you woke up to flat Earth by 2017, I mean, there's no way for a few years you didn't know all these things while you were working in the healthcare still.
Exactly, dude. And I was that idiot when I was first coming into Flat Earth trying to talk to like my fucking colleagues about it, you know? I remember the first person, like, you're a flat earther? Like it was just when it was starting to come as like a buzz trigger word to the normies, like you said, right around 2017. And I remember her response, and then I learned real quick, I can't talk about this shit here.
No,
Nah, of course
no.
not. Um, so yeah, Brian, so I'm existing in that world. I'm like me the way I am now, but in that world, and I'm trying to walk those two worlds. When you bring up COVID, I mean, COVID was the breaking point. Once COVID hit, there was no way I could exist. And I'm sure there's many, many people across this whole world that have my same story where,
Yeah.
you know, it was this threshold point, right, where I had no choice. I was forced to make a choice, and obviously it came back to the fucking the fucking Jamba Juice, and that was the linchpin. Um, and I can tell you, Brian, I mean, when COVID hit in March, it was like the second or third week of March in 2020. Like I said, Brian, I was in it, dude. I'm at the pediatric hospital. I'm in management and I'm a practitioner, so I saw
Hmm.
it from both sides. When I tell you everybody believed it, they all believed it. And that's the thing, Brian. It's like
Do you
it's
think
like
it
we
was
always talk
deeper
about.
though? Like I've talked about it. It seemed to me, and I even said this before COVID had blown up over here, that it seemed like the entire world took an update where, and two different groups of people, and people like us took like a creativity update, and these people took like they got really different. Everybody, they all, obviously they all bought in, and they're indoctrinated, and we know that. I think something's else at play. They got really aggressive. They actually all, maybe you noticed this. I noticed this in my visits just to those doctor's offices in the first week as somebody that was supposed to be a patient. They lost all compassion and any common sense at all. Like, I mean, when I went into the
Brian, it
first doctor's
became
office I went into, dude, there was nobody there, okay? And I had an appointment already. I had an appointment to get I needed to get the fucking referral to get the hernia surgery. This goes all the way back to then, right? This is March 2020. And they're telling me they're not going to see me. And I know all I need is this fucking referral, right? And they're not going to see me because they're waiting because of COVID. And I said, well, there's nobody here, right? There's literally not a person in the waiting room. I said, well, there's nobody here. What are you waiting for the calm before the storm? And they, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And at this point, they didn't even have the testing, which is fraudulent, anyways, and we can get into that. But I was like, so when these people come in, how are you going to determine if they just have the flu or if they have COVID? They
Brian.
couldn't fucking get me out of there quick enough, dude.
Brian, you're hitting it right on the thing. I do think the update is valid. Yes, I do. I saw it happen, man. People turned into animals. Like I said, I was at a pediatric hospital, Brian. I'm a pediatric audiologist. So these kids depend on our program to hear, right? They have you know, they have these medical devices, these prosthetic devices, whether it's a hearing aid, a cochlear implant, all kinds of devices. We have these bone conduction devices for hearing. Brian, they basically shut our program down for like 8 months. So the hospital shut down to all non-essential stuff.
Hmm.
So now you're a little kid and you need your hearing aid fixed and you can't do it. So now you're a little kid. You can't hear for 8 months, dude. I was, Brian, I was furious, dude. I was fucking furious. They shut it down. But I'm there every day because, like I said, we still had to see patients, any emergencies that come in. A lot of
Yeah.
the testing that me and my providers would do is it's not it's all kinds of stuff. I don't want to get all into it, but say a kid comes in and they don't know if he's brain dead or not. They fucking send us in and we present certain sounds to the ear to see if the brain waves are responding. There's all kinds of stuff. Do stuff for intraoperative procedures and everything. So I was still up and running. Now, Brian, my whole staff, they're home, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're running on a skeleton staff. We had them coming in like, every third day they'd come in, maybe see a patient or two. There was an inpatient, good inpatient comes in. We had to see them. They're checked into the hospital. But we were basically shut down. But I was there every fucking day. I was furious, Brian. I was I was I was looking around, Brian. See, you tapped into something in me now, dude. I was looking around at the other people around me, Brian, in particular the other men, if you want to know the truth. Now, there's a lot of
Hey,
females. I'm
to
saying it
to
wrong. There's
ju-
a lot of
to
women at a pediatric.
to jump in, just to interject real quick. When I had that first experience, it was like the first week of March, and that doctor's office was like the first place to turn people away. And I went home, dude. I was so upset by what I saw with humanity at that point. I broke down in tears doing the video, dude.
I'm not surprised, dude. I'm not surprised because that's where I was during the whole time. You know, that's where I was during the whole time, Brian. They were turning kids away, little kids, man. It was crazy, man. And Brian, like I said, I was in a pediatric hospital, and there's a lot of like, women doctors, and they're great. They're great. But I was looking to the men. I was like, what are we fucking doing here? Like, what the fuck is going on? And everybody just went along with it, dude.
Yep.
They just went along with it. They shut down a pediatric hospital until the vaccine came out, really. And that's when they opened up, and it was still slow. Brian, they were fighting over the vaccine like dogs. You want to talk about humanity? The providers, when it came out, I remember it was the last week of December. We were some of the first people to get the vaccine to our hospital. They pumped it because they gave it to the health providers first. They lined up for it. They were fighting for it, Brian. I had this one. Brian, is my audio still good? You
Oh
still hear
yeah,
me?
yeah, you're good. I just got my camera off. Keep going.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's cool. Cool. Yeah, I got you. Sorry. What the fuck was I saying?
You were the first to get the vaccines because you were the healthcare providers.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Okay. So, Brian, we can talk for 10 hours about this if we.
Well, we'll
I
talk
don't
about
even
it for
know
a
where I
while,
want
dude.
to.
This is the biggest thing in the world right now, even though it seems like it's rolled
All
back.
right.
The agenda rolls on, and
So
this is a great
of
conversation.
course,
And I don't get to talk about COVID that much anymore. I mean, we talk about Mandela effect all the time, flat Earth, and we're going to get into those a lot too. But let's hammer home some COVID, man, because you have a very unique perspective, and I've done a lot of stuff during COVID and stuff, but you work on the other side of it. This is great stuff, dude. Let's keep going.
all right. So, yeah. So I was going with when the vaccine came out. It was like the last week of December. It was right around Christmas. Okay. I'll never forget this, dude. We had a provider, and they wanted it. Like all the doctors, whether it was my audiologists or if it was the ear, nose, and throat doctors, their medical doctors, surgeons, all kinds of different physicians,
Hmm.
they all lined up for it, man. Now, Brian, I think like we're talking about the sickness of this world, there had to be a number of them that knew this was fucking bullshit, but they lined up and did it anyway. Because think about it, you're a big time surgeon, right? You're making two hundred forty
Yeah,
thousand
dude.
dollars a year,
It's
300,
it's everybody's sold out
three
to the
hundred thousand
dollar,
dollars a
man.
year.
Yep, the dollar. It
You
fucking
you you you
corrupted
you
everything.
Exactly. Now you got a wife, you got two young kids at home. Maybe your wife's pregnant. You just bought a new house. You just bought a new house. Now you're faced with this dilemma. Here's how I know, Brian, because I was faced with that dilemma. That's how I fucking know, Brian. So I know there was guys that lined up, men and women, knowing what they were lining up for, and they fucking did it anyway, man. And that's what I think is the insanity of the split, because then they could take you out of your humanity, take you out of your sovereignty, out of your divinity, and now you're putting it onto the system. It's like a baptism into the system. If you're just an idiot and you don't fucking know and you really think it's all real, but there's people, and I'm sure all over this world, lined up and they bowed down and they
Yeah.
basically sold their soul.
Yeah, man.
Because when you know better, you're selling your soul. So it's a devil's bargain, and I think that's where they really damn themselves. I really do believe that, Brian. If they didn't know any better, it would be different. Because I was faced with that decision. So anyway, so my point is, dude, we had this one provider, and she was leaving us. She had got another job. She was kind of fed up with the job, and she wanted to leave. So she had just got hired somewhere else, but we were keeping her on as what we call it's per diem. So you keep them hired. So
Yeah.
say you need them because she was getting a job at like a school. So like she's off in the summer. So if we needed a substitute or a clinician to come in, she could come, right? So
Yeah.
she was still employed with us. But it got into this whole politic game, and where she right before she left was her last week there was the same week the vaccine came out. And I'm going to protect myself from lawsuits right now, so I'll just speak in generalities. But one of the higher ups kind of had a little beef with this provider. They didn't really like each other, and this provider was leaving on bad terms. So this one provider who was leaving, I remember she was still employed with us. She just was switching to a different position. She was on the list to get her vaccine, and this higher up took her off the list to play like a game, like to say, well, it's basically saying like, well, we only have a certain amount of vaccines. So since you're not a full-time employee,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get it, right? But she wanted it so bad. So next thing you know, I'm in the middle of this battle over this management administrative person vindictively playing like politics with the vaccine with this provider, and it got really vicious, dude. So when I say that people were fighting over these vaccines, that's how much they were lining up to get them, that they were fighting over the fucking vaccines. Turned out, Brian, of course it didn't matter because they just dumped so many on us
Yeah.
where everybody fucking lined up. The fucking janitor the second day. So the first day was all the fucking surgeons, and the second day was the fucking janitors, dude. You know what I mean? Like they drummed up like this like false scarcity mindhood in people
Oh
to
yeah.
get them all lined up for it. And then it just shot everybody up anyway. It wasn't even a fucking thing, dude. I watched him do it, man. So when people think that the doctors are in on it, it's way more than that, dude. And that's why I really think we talk about magic and indoctrination, because it's like, don't think that these doctors are like shooting people up and they're not doing it to themselves. They all lined up for it, dude. All of
Yeah,
them.
oh yeah, dude. I totally I never thought that like all these doctors had this like uh thought these were bad and had some evil plan to go at people. But what you're saying is on some deeper shit because you're saying so let's just say you watched let's just use a low number even though it's probably a lot higher, but let's just say there's 10 people, right? There's 10 doctors or whatever. Let's say doctors, surgeons, like doctors, right? People that would have some knowledge, right? Maybe, hopefully. Let's say 10 of them went and got the vaccine that you know. How many of them do you think know that the vaccine might have really bad effects for them and got it? And how many do you think out of the 10, we'll use 100 if it's an easier number. Out of 100, how many, that 100 doctors at your hospital that went and got it, how many of them do you think know that they might actually be physically damaged from it after versus what's the percentage do you think just buys the bullshit all in and doesn't see anything wrong and it goes right past over their head?
If I had to spitball that, I'd say 15%.
Of
If I had to
what?
spitball.
15% know it's not the best thing to do and they do it anyways?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the rest
Yeah.
are all in. The rest
I
are
would
just
say there's 15%.
so the rest are completely indoctrinated. But those 15%, like you said, those are the ones that are just basically selling their soul over. I mean, they're just
Exactly. Well, I'll use myself, dude. prior to that, I was going every year and getting the seasonal flu shot. And every time, dude, I would, and the reason I justified it myself was like, well, they
Oh, that
dosed
means
me up when I was a
that
kid
means it
anyway. I already
works.
been jet.
Oh, when you
Yeah,
get it, and you
I
get.
already been jacked. I didn't think it worked. I didn't think it worked, but I was like, how bad could it fucking be? They've been jacking me up my whole life. Why don't you just jack me up some more to keep my
Wow,
job, right?
wow,
But every
kind.
time I would go in there, this is all, before, this was just when the seasonal flu, because to work there, dude, Brian, they'd have these weird days where like everybody, it's like seasonal flu time, and you had to get it, right? Or you didn't have to get it, but if you didn't get it, you had to wear a mask. Well, how am I going to wear a mask? I work with deaf kids.
Oh,
Like they have
that's
to see my fucking mouth.
wow.
But anyway, but the point is, they would line up. It was so weird, Brian. They'd have like in this auditorium at the hospital, and they'd have all these different stations, and they'd have music playing. It was so weird. And every time I'd be standing in line, and I'd be raging on the inside. I'm like, fuck this. I should fucking leave right now. But I would do it. I would
Dude, I
sit down and
couldn't.
I'd let them shoot me
I
up,
mean,
dude.
oh my god, dude.
And I knew it. And I knew it, dude. I knew it, man. And I would just like, okay. But my justification was, it's like I said, it's that weird split. I let him shoot me up. But my line was with the COVID one because at that point I knew that was what do they say, like a bridge too far. And that was because I knew it at that moment, Brian. It was like I knew if I took that shot, to me, that was my selling my soul moment. That's how I looked at it, dude.
Yeah.
If I took that shot, that was it. So, but yeah, dude. So I could see the mindset of these doctors who knew and still did it anyway. But the vast majority, completely and utterly indoctrinated, completely buy into the
Of
whole
course,
thing,
of course.
com com completely, dude. And that was it. That was I walked away from the whole thing. I walked away,
So, what was your
you
grand
know.
exit? Was there a grand exit? How did you announce it? Did you
Oh, there was
do?
a grand exit. There was a grand exit,
I
dude. I
want to
mean, I
hear.
didn't go out.
Let's hear. I want to hear about the fireworks on the way out, dude. I mean,
So,
and
oh, I should have
can I
fucking
ask
went. I
you?
should have went off.
Let me ask you. Before you made the grand exit, did you have family at home you had to tell and talk to this about and be like, "Hey, I'm leaving this fucking whole thing."
Yeah, I got divorced, Brian. My marriage broke up because of it, dude. It's just that's the way it goes. That's like we said. I used to think it was a sacrifice, but it's not a sacrifice. We just no longer resonate with that world. So we just by mechanics, the
Hmm.
mechanics of energy, resonate away from that and towards wherever we're supposed to be. So yeah, Brian, that's why I call it sacrifice. It wasn't only my career, it was my marriage.
Do you
But
want to
anyway,
touch? Do you want to touch on that, or you
um,
want to just keep that to the side?
we could a little bit. I mean, my wife, my ex-wife was a nurse. She was in management
Mm-hmm.
also.
Yep.
I don't want to go too into it, but when all the COVID stuff went down, I'll never forget the day I knew my marriage was over. I walked in. First of all, she was just watching as Fox News was on all time, Fauci guy.
You
So
guys
one
have
day I come
kids?
home.
You guys have kids together? Children?
No, but
Okay.
I had a stepdaughter.
Okay.
So she was a little older. She was like 12, but no, we didn't have any kids, luckily. Um, so I'll never forget it, Brian. I told you this story a couple months ago on your show. I said it real quick, but anyway, I came home and she was watching TV and she comes up to me and says, "There's this bakery in the next town over, and they make this is how fucking absurd people think, dude." She goes, "They make Dr. Fauci cupcakes. They're cupcakes with Dr. Fauci's face on it. I'm gonna go get them. I love Dr. Fauci,
Oh
and
my
I want his
goodness.
cupcake."
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And I knew it, Brian, in that moment I said, "Oh, that's when I realized what the time in history we're in is the dividing line that can never be crossed at this point. Whatever split has happened in society,
Oh
there's
yeah.
no going back.
No, 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 no.
That split's
No, no, no.
permanent,
And
dude.
I
That's a
welcome this.
permanent split.
I welcome the split now. I'm happy it happened, honestly. But
Me too. Me too, man. I'm so happy, man. Uh, is my audio still good? I don't want to like
dude,
push my voice, but I want my
dude,
audio to
oh
pick up.
dude, you're doing fine. Everything's. I think our
Cool,
audio
cool.
levels even, guys. I think they are. I think we're good, dude. So just continue.
All right,
And
cool,
so
cool, cool.
we
All
were
right.
talking about your separation, and then we're gonna get into your grand finale at work, the fireworks.
Yeah, yeah. So once I realized that my wife and I were on these completely different uh, sides of this well, battle, I knew it was over. Well, I didn't leave her. She left me, but it was over when it happened. I'm sure I mentally left at that point. You know what I mean? And she just kind of did the physical part of leaving.
Yeah.
So, but it was over at that point. Everything was over, in my old life at that point because I knew I couldn't maintain myself in that environment. You know what's funny, Brian? I walked into that hospital every day during COVID before there was even a vaccine out. Every day when it started, Brian. I walked into that hospital every morning with signs that said what a hero I was and how special I was. And then once they were forcing me to keep my job, or basically once I had to submit to their tyranny just to keep my job, and I was expunged from the institution, all of a sudden I guess I wasn't such a hero, you know? But I was a hero every day when I walked in when there was no vaccine and it was so dangerous. And I went from a fucking hero to a zero real quick, I guess. It's funny how that happens. That's why I'll never work for a corporation again, man, because it only takes from you. Brian, when COVID hit, dude, I can go in so many directions with this, man, but when COVID hit, when you work at a hospital or any job, you look around and you realize that there's a handful of people, maybe 20% who like really do the work, and the other 80% are just fucking robot NPCs just going along. It's the 80/20 rule. Like, so 2 out of 10 people or work. So anyway, this one doctor, this other doctor I really respected, he was an anesthesiologist. And COVID hit, dude. It was such chaos at the hospital. People were so scared. The administrators weren't even coming in to work, man. It was the Wild West. But yet we're expected to do all this high level medical shit. And this guy was an anesthesiologist. I really liked him. I respected him. He was like a little older than me. He was maybe late 50s. Dedicated guy, loved his patients. All his colleagues loved him. COVID hit. He was there every day, just like me, going through all the bullshit. Well, guess what, Brian? He's an anesthesiologist. At least he didn't have to put a bullet in his head to end his life. He just did it the way an anesthesiologist would. So
Wow.
he was gone. Okay. I watched that happen. So the doctor I respected, right in the middle of the whole thing, man, as everything was going down, he was the head of one of the departments, surgeon, everything. All of a sudden, heart attack, congestive heart failure. He had to retire. All these people I respected started just fucking breaking down. And I realized if I don't get out of here, this system's just going to grind me down into dust. And then I realized, so when I realized when you bargain with this world, it is truly a devil's bargain because the system only takes. The system doesn't give anything. It only takes. That's the nasty part of it. But anyway, so I'm there and all of a sudden, here's how it went down, dude. So like I said, Brian, all right, I might as well go on. So I was working at, you guys could look it up. I was working at Nemours Pediatric Hospital. It's called DuPont. It's in Wilmington, Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Delaware, Brian, right around December of 2020, who had just been elected president of the United States?
Oh,
Mr.
wow.
Joe Biden. You know where
Yeah.
he's from? Delaware, right? So here I am. The vaccine comes out. Joe Biden, he wasn't inaugurated yet. He had been elected. So Trump was still the president because it was in between the election and the inauguration,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's December. Inauguration happens in like January or February, whatever. So I'm in a super liberal state in a super liberal pediatric hospital. Joe Biden was literally, Brian, literally 10 minutes down the road. He lived 10 minutes down the road from the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the vaccines came out, I get the first email. Please schedule your appointment. Dude, we're definitely not going to be able to keep this on YouTube.
Oh
Anyway,
no, we're definitely deleting it. Go all in. We're 100% deleting this app. So
all right.
anybody doesn't know if you got here late, this will be deleted off YouTube after, but it is up on Rockfan, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, and it'll be on Odyssey and Rumble after. So it's all we can do because they will definitely strike this down. But we want to go all in. We
Yeah,
do
dude.
not want to censor ourselves. So we're already way past the point of where this is going to stay on YouTube. So keep going.
So So I get the first email to schedule your appointment for your vaccine. So I fucking delete it. I go about my day. 3 days later, I get the second email. Like I said, this is the end of December 2020, right when the vaccine came out. Before it went to the public, it all went to these hospitals. Of course, pediatric hospital, 15 minutes down the road from Joe Biden. We must have probably been one of the first places in the world to get
Oh,
it.
dude, if you're the hometown of Joe
Anyway,
Biden, like you guys are probably champion that thing. You guys were all proud of it. I mean,
oh
I
my,
could, I could only imagine the mentality that you were sitting in the middle of, dude. Like, what a sick, sick fucking mentality, and you're dead smack
you
in the
got it,
fucking
dude.
middle of it.
And Brian, not only on top of that, I was at DuPont Hospital. So if you look into the DuPonts, the hospital's built on the grounds of their old mansion, right? So they had this big mansion. You can look it up on the internet. One side of the grounds, and when I say grounds, it's like hundreds of acres, right? Right outside of Wilmington, Delaware. One side of the grounds is a pediatric hospital. On the other side of the grounds, if you know anything about the DuPonts, they made their money in the 1800s making black powder, which is weaponry. DuPont's, right? Look at DuPont. Everybody knows DuPont Corporation, right?
Yeah.
They're highly into weapons
Oh yeah.
production, manufacturing. So look, on one side of the grounds was the pediatric hospital. On the other side was a secret weapons research facility, right? As you pull into the hospital, the guy, his name's Alfred DuPont, Alfred I. DuPont. There's a huge obelisk, fucking mausoleum that he's buried in. As soon as you come in, it's the creepiest fucking place in the world, Brian. The hospital was opened like in the 1920s as a children's hospital for, I think they called it was for like kids that had polio and other things. So you know my mind, I'm like, oh, you weird fucking elite motherfuckers. You open children's hospital, okay, with big walls around it, and it was a fuck it, Brian. I'm just going deep. I don't give a fuck. Listen, whoever sees this, if you know me from my past, everything I'm saying is true. So go fuck yourself, all right? Because I don't care. Anyway, Brian.
Yeah.
So they had this fucking elite family, one of the 13 bloodline families, apparently, builds a fucking children's hospital on the same grounds they have a weapons research facility. Go figure that one out. It's a foundation. So you get 2 for 1. You get to wash all your money, so you don't have to fucking pay any taxes. If you wash all your money through, you get to be a philanthropist, okay? Which basically create a foundation, create a children's hospital, and you wash all your money through it. You don't have to pay any taxes. And at the same time, you have all these nice little sick children and all their fresh blood that's so sweet to these fucking people. But anyway, I'll leave it there, Brian. I don't want to go too much into that. But this is where I am, dude. So yeah, what a weird fucking place for me to be in, dude. And now they're trying to pump a fucking, well, untested medicine into my arm. Medicine, yeah, poison. So I get the second email. Please schedule your appointment for your CV vaccine. I fucking deleted that one. Going about my day. Now I knew what was coming. I get the third email, Brian. We've scheduled you.
The audacity. Yeah, we've scheduled you. Penciled you in, dude.
We've scheduled you for your COVID vaccine tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Here.
Suck my fucking dick.
So of course I deleted that one too. And I got the fourth one wasn't an email, it was a phone call. And it was one of the higher ups. The next thing you know, I'm in a meeting with a bunch of fucking people. You can imagine how that went. I'll save the details because I don't want to put myself up for any liabilities, but suffice it to say, in no uncertain terms, they made it very clear to me what my options were. Okay, Brian? Not only that, there was no way I could have stayed there, even if I took it to the limit, to the fucking Supreme Court, because my colleagues would have never accepted me there. And that's the real reason I left.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because
yeah, you would have been like the
Yes.
black sheep and just absolute miserable every day there.
Exactly, man. Brian, 9 months before all this went down, I was Employee of the Month. They honored me with a big speech. All these people wrote these fucking testimonials about me, and they read it in front of the whole hospital. The president of the hospital presented it to me. He cried as he was reading them, as he was presenting me my award and reading the testimonials for my colleagues and my patients. He was the president of the hospital, and he fucking He fucking broke down in tears, dude. But yet 9 months later, they're fucking kicking me out. So
Dark spell, dude. It's not just the indoctrination. Like I was saying, something fucking happened to all these people, dude. They got their consciousness took an update, man. It's fucking way fucking deep. So, you said, and we will take in about 5 minutes. We're gonna take another coffee break. Okay, I just gotta fill my coffee again. But you said that they told you exactly what your options were without putting yourself in any type of legal predicament. Can you elaborate on what they said your options were at all, or you have to not touch that?
well, it was it was the standard legalese. They had the legal person in there, and they said, in order to maintain your employment here, you need to be compliant with our vaccination policy. That's exactly how they said it to me.
Wow.
I said, well, I was compliant when I hired here. You had a policy, and now you changed the policy. And they said, well, it's our policy. You need to be compliant. You cannot be a provider here unless you're compliant with our vaccine. And that's how they presented it to me. This policy changed. We updated it. And that was it. That was it. So I said, sayonara. And I didn't, it wasn't. I maintained the utmost amount of professionalism. I stayed there for, like another, 10 days to wrap everything up and, get all my everything in order.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. Unceremoniously left. Nobody was there. Nobody was there to, you know,
No, what
that was it.
happens?
Just
So do you? What happens to anything you had put aside for like retirement or 401k or things like that? What happens
I
with that?
cashed in my 401k. And that's what I'm living off of. Cashed it in.
Yeah.
Took a big hit on it. That's what I did. So, but yeah, that was it, dude. It was it. That was. And there's a lot more. There's a lot more story, but that's in a nutshell, man. That was my experience, dude. So it is what it is, man. It is. It just shows the insanity of the system because you know they indoctrinate these kids. I want to be a police officer when I grow up, or I want to be a fireman when I grow up, right? So you 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 indoctrinate these children with an idea of what it is to be a successful adult. So they create the parameters for success. They create the parameters for what it is to be, a successful adult, and then they manipulate the system the whole way to get you to incrementally buy in and sell yourself over to it. It's so disgusting. It's so fucking disgusting. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, man, I can go more into that, but that was it. So I left, and now I'm moving in a different direction now. But it's like you said, Brian, it's so much better, dude, because I can be who I actually
You
am
be
now,
yourself, bro. You're just
you know?
completely free of soul. You're not muzzling yourself at all around anybody, and it's insane that we've done that for years. Even a
Exactly,
guy
man.
like you or a guy like me, we started our journey, a long, long time. I mean, I've been doing shows and podcasts for over 12 years now. But it took me, for many of those years, I still muzzled myself around a lot of people in many ways, and I don't think anybody in here can say that they've never done that for a while. Around certain family or friends, whatever. Now it's just I'm completely free. Everybody knows what the fuck I think about everything, and I just being around people that aren't fake, and it's not. I don't even want to say that these people are fake because that's not fair. Because a lot of these people that they're genuine people, but living in the fakeness and being happy with that, I can't surround myself with that and fake the funk. You know.
No, and why should we, Because when we're around them, we're constantly being put down, and like we know. It's like, it's like you're talking to a child who's trying to tell you about Santa Claus. In your head, you're like, no, there's no Santa Claus, dude. You're nuts. Like you're in an insanity, man. Like, but yet we're around them and we have to be like the idiots, Like we have to take that role. And I'm not doing that anymore either.
No, taking
And that's why
insults.
this
So
community,
they poke and try and make insults at us and stuff, and it's like, well, you're just a fucking idiot. And I don't want to say that back to them, but it's like we take verbal abuse all the time and shit. But go ahead. What about the community?
well, I was gonna say, dude, that's what's so important about the community, right? Because once you resonate away from that culture, you naturally resonate towards this culture, right? And that's really what it's about, because we can't you can't exist in both, especially now, like we said, like you can't have one foot into the world and then another foot into
Well,
basically any
dude,
truth at
listen.
all.
The line has been completely drawn in the sand with COVID, and your story about your wife, and you split up. That is like so many. We've heard it from Christian and other people. Like this is the same story so many people have, dude. This clearly COVID. This clearly the line in the sand, and those of us that are really, we really want truth and we don't want to live in a lie, like yourselves. You've made that decision. Well, I'm not gonna go along with that game. I'm not gonna mask my kids. I'm not gonna be around you when you play COVID. And I think you guys are all making the right decision, no matter how hard that is.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. 100%. We can't, dude, with this COVID thing, Brian. It's funny you said about Christian because when I was hearing him talk a little bit about his stories, I related with him so much. It's one of the reasons I love Christian so much. Shout out to Christian. Yo, Levelhead. Brian, Levelhead's going to be cool, dude. They're going to be
Yeah, man.
touring around and stuff. Christian and Boston Ray.
Yeah.
Check out those guys. Check out Boston Ray, Mudflood Adventures. He's got an awesome show every night. Fucking guy's next level. He and Christian are going to be touring around in Levelhead. I secretly want to be the bassist. I already told Christian. He probably thinks I'm nuts. But anyway,
Hey, you know
I'm
what?
like, dude, I want to be the bass.
Christian's truth music career started on this show, on his Awakening interview, My Awakening episode 27. That he hadn't played music in front of anybody, like at least maybe ever, or at least in like a decade or something. He said it was a long time, and we turned it into like a music festival that night. And then he started making songs and doing shows. So, yeah, man, it's a. I feel really close to all you
Yeah,
guys.
and he's
Like
and he's awesome. That's the
I feel
thing,
like you
right?
guys
And
are
he's
like
like
you
secretly
guys are
awesome.
my family. Yeah, dude, he's really awesome.
Exactly, dude. And that's what I was saying, like about the community. And that's the amazing blessing. So, I have no regrets. Brian, that part of my life had to die to bring me here. Because if that never happened to me, I would never be sitting here talking to you in front of all these amazing people, right? That would never have happened, man. So this is my true dream come true, man. Like who would have thought when I was watching uh, you know, Sage Aquay all these years ago, dropping all these truth and you guys are going back and forth, and now here I am. This would have never happened. I wouldn't have. I sit and I have conversations with amazing people, like Lucky Haskins. You know what I mean? Like Voynich. Like fucking Morgan, dude. Yo, Brian Morgan's my new favorite YouTuber. Morgan from Isabella Live. You know what I'm talking about?
I recognize the name Isabella Live, but I don't think I've even seen any of the content.
Oh, dude.
I'll have to check it
Morgan,
out.
if you're out there, he's probably here, dude.
Well,
Morgan,
leave
you're
a
a fucking
link.
man,
Yeah,
dude.
if you're there, leave a link, or somebody leave a link to the channel. Send me the link after.
People know Isabella Alive. If Boston Ray's Mudflood knows who he is, his buddies with him. Morgan's. But here's my point, dude. There's all these amazing geniuses all around the world, intelligent, bright people, shining people that I get to interact with on a daily basis and have conversations that matter.
Yeah,
You
dude,
know,
that's what it's all about, man. I mean, I've never had a party and a gathering for days on end with 400 of my friends who weren't awake. Like, I'm having more fun than ever, dude. I mean, and we did this 4 times during COVID, and I got the hat on tonight. Like we did it 4 times during COVID. You know, like we have the
yeah,
best
dude.
people. I'm going out to California again to go see Steffi and hang out. And we're gonna go have fun everywhere. And like right when I get there, basically, we're gonna have a meetup at Huntington Beach, Mandela Effect meetup with like fucking awesome people, dude. Like I never did stuff like this before, ever. I never like traveled around and like did all this. Like this is the best, dude. And COVID made me want to
Right.
fucking do it, go in the face of all this.
Well, it's like we talk about, dude, about co-creating your reality. You know, we're all creating this. And we didn't see this, but because we decided and made certain choices that basically increased our resonance, we now resonate with all these other people. you know. And it's a special thing. And I think we're all going to need each other more and more. I
Yeah, dude.
think I see this community as something way beyond what it may look like,
Oh, we might
you
have been
know?
brought together for a big, like, cosmic reason, dude. Like,
I think
seriously.
so, dude.
Yeah,
No, I
dude.
really think so, man. I really do, honestly, you know. And it's the Mandela effect, the same thing. Like people like Nathan Sanders is awesome. Now he wasn't into flat Earth. He noticed the Mandela effect. He saw Sex in the City changed and it blew his mind away.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden he knows the globe lies. He knows all the NASA lies, right? All he did was resonate towards truth. All Nathan did was say, I want to know what's going on in this world. And I'm going to fucking find out. And now we're all here together,
Yeah,
you
dude.
know? And
Yeah.
anybody who's here, I'll say this for Brian. And I've never talked about this with Brian, but I know he knows it, but I'm going to say it here. Staveley is at the epicenter of the truth movement, people. If you can't fucking see that, I don't know where you are. This show and Brian Staveley is the epicenter of this movement. This is where all the best people are. This is the platform to come to speak. Okay. Look the Bible talks about you'll know a person by their fruits, right? You'll know a person, a tree, you know a tree by its fruit, and you know a person by its fruit.
Hmm.
Well, who's here? Who's here? Amazing people, you know? They're all here. So that was my little plug for you, Brian, because I really believe in
Thank
it,
you.
dude. I
Appreciate
really,
that.
I believe you've created a space that, because when I come in here and I talk to you, Brian, I could just talk freely. When I go and say, other platforms and forums and panels and stuff, I always feel like I'm driving with the brakes on, with these people. And
Hmm.
sometimes I'll say shit, and I'm like, you don't even know what I'm saying, like, and I almost won't even say stuff. I'm like, the whole expression like casting your pearls before swine. You kind of hold back, but whenever I'm here and having conversations like with, you know, you and Christian and, or talking to Freedom Grower over on his channel and stuff, that guy's amazing. Check out Freedom Grower if you haven't. His channel might have I was watching him this morning. He went blank. I don't know if they fucked his channel up, but anyway, um, all the people that are here, and the way we interact with each other is something that you can't even really explain to people who aren't aware of it. And that's where I think resonance comes into it because, Brian, I've been really into the concept of resonance lately because I think it's all about resonance. And you look at some of the purported technology that Tesla, whoever that figure was into, and you look at things like the Tesla coil, and you study things like that's all based on electrical resonance. And you look at mechanical resonance, and just look at the way a acoustic guitar works, right? Now, here's my point. When you pluck that guitar string, it produces a certain output, but yet when you place that guitar string on the acoustic body, the body of that guitar, the resonant characteristics of that guitar increase the energy and intensity of that mechanical vibration. It's an acoustic signal, which is basically mechanical energy. So, what's my point about resonance? Right? Resonance is a means to increase energy output without any further increases in energy. Right? That's not found anywhere else in nature. Right? And I think as humans, we resonate with each other. So, when you put certain people together or when people gather, or like-minded people, when they all start resonating with each other, the output is greater than the sum of its parts. They
Oh,
talk about
dude.
things like
Yeah.
G-salt theory, right? So now you're talking about true synchrony and resonance, and you're talking about true synergy, electrical synergy, and that's what I think happens in particular, this community here, because you'll see when these conversations start. And Nathan mentioned this on your show the other day, Brian, where you'll start to say shit that you don't even know you fucking could say, right? And then you look
Hmm.
back on it afterwards, you're like, where did that even come from? It's because right now we're talking to each other and we're increasing our own psychic energy just by having this conversation, right?
That's
So
why I love these
our output is
conversations,
greater.
man. I learned so much off all you guys too. Like I appreciate the praise too, by the way, and it really does. it's nice to hear sometimes that people appreciate and see how hard I'm trying to get people to wake up to all these things. But yeah, definitely I enjoy interviewing you guys so much, just like I enjoy meeting people so much at the events, and I feel like everybody has so much to offer. Like that show the other night, that we were all on Ian's show. There's a lot of cool people, man, with a lot of ideas to do with the Mandela effect. Which again, we're gonna get a lot into that later, guys. But
Oh, I got a list. I got a list in my pocket for you with the Mandela effect.
just
Man,
different.
I thought about it this
Just
morning.
it's so great to bring in other people and their ideas and their take on what the Mandela effect is, even if it doesn't all resonate with me or it might stimulate me to think about things in a different way or whatever. That was really cool for me the other night. I really enjoyed doing that. But hey, how
It
about
was awesome.
we take a 5 minute break and we come right back?
How about we come back into Mandela?
All right, cool, perfect. All right, we're gonna take
Yeah.
a 5 minute break, guys. We're gonna come right back. We'll get into some Mandela effect. We'll get back into some flat Earth stuff later. We're gonna get into some your interesting take on the January thing. You still want to talk about after?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So we got a lot of stuff to get into. Don't go anywhere. Just remember, guys, if you're behind on the stream at any point, this will disappear on you before you finish it. You have to finish it on one of the other platforms because I'm going to delete it off YouTube when it's done. But we're live on Rockfin, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And thank you, David McDonald, for the $10 Cash App. I did get that. And if you guys appreciate the stream, think about leaving a super chat. All right, we'll be right back.